Officer Jake Morales had been on the force for just 2 months. Fresh out of the academy, he was eager to prove himself. His uniform was crisp, his boots polished to a mirror shine, and his patrol car smelled faintly of new leather and coffee. Jake had grown up idolizing heroes in movies, the ones who always got their man, who never hesitated to uphold the law no matter the danger. But now, as he sat behind the wheel of his patrol car, alone on a quiet suburban street, he realized reality was far more intimidating than he'd imagined. He had been patrolling since dawn, eyes scanning every parked car, every street corner, every shadow that might hide trouble. The morning sun reflected off the chrome of his car, momentarily blinding him, and he adjusted his sunglasses nervously. This was his first day alone. His training officer, Sergeant Daniels, had called in sick, leaving Jake to handle the streets by himself. It was supposed to be a simple routine day. Nothing to worry about. Then the radio crackled. Attention units. A suspect matching the description of a wanted criminal has been spotted on a motorcycle. Male, late 40s, leather jacket, skull insignia on the back. Proceed with caution. Jake's pulse spiked. He straightened his posture, gripping the steering wheel tightly. He scanned the streets and then, down the main avenue, he saw him. A biker cruising confidently on a black Harley. His leather jacket gleamed in the sunlight, the skull insignia clearly visible on his back. His engine roared like a growling predator as he leaned slightly into the curves of the road. Target confirmed, Jake whispered to himself. He flicked the siren switch and felt the familiar vibration of adrenaline. The biker didn't speed away. He slowed down, eventually pulling to the curb with a practiced ease that suggested he had done this countless times before. He removed his helmet, revealing a face weathered by years on the road, lines around his eyes from laughter and struggle, a salt and pepper beard, and calm, intelligent eyes. Jake swallowed hard. This was it, the moment that would prove his competence. Step off the bike. You're under suspicion for criminal activity, Jake barked, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. The biker raised his hand slowly and complied, his expression unreadable. There was no fear, no anger, just quiet dignity. Jake noticed it immediately. The man's eyes were calm, almost kind, not the eyes of a criminal who would resist arrest. Still, Jake followed procedure. He moved quickly, handcuffs in hand, and guided the biker to the curb. His heart pounded in his chest. Every sound, the click of the handcuffs, the roar of nearby traffic, the distant calls of pedestrians, seemed amplified. He glanced at the man's ID as he prepared to secure him in the patrol car, but his hands shook slightly, betraying his nerves. Minutes later, the radio crackled again, breaking the tense silence. Unit 12. Suspect has been apprehended in another town. Stand down immediately. Repeat, suspect apprehended elsewhere. Jake froze, the words echoing in his head. He blinked, hoping he'd misheard. But the panic settled in almost immediately. He had arrested the wrong man. The realization hit him like a punch to the chest. Oh no. No, Jake muttered, his voice barely audible. His palms grew sweaty, and the cuffs on the biker suddenly felt heavier, more oppressive. The man, sensing Jake's panic, tilted his head slightly. Officer, is something wrong? He asked calmly, his voice steady, patient. Jake swallowed hard. Yes, sir, I think I made a mistake, he stammered. Before he could fully explain, a low rumble grew in the distance. At first, Jake thought it was just traffic, but it kept growing louder, faster, the vibrations in his chest warning him something massive was approaching. Then he saw it. A cloud of dust on the horizon, a thunderous roar so deep and powerful it felt as if the ground itself was trembling. Jake's eyes widened as the noise grew louder. Not one bike, not two, but dozens, then dozens more. Within seconds, the quiet suburban street had transformed into a scene of controlled chaos. Hundreds of motorcycles descended upon the road, engines roaring in unison, the air thick with exhaust and leather. The sound was deafening, the vibration almost tangible in Jake's chest. He tried to radio for backup, but the signal was lost amidst the noise. Panic set in. The bikers formed a tight formation, encircling Jake's patrol car like predators surrounding prey. But something in their posture, Their measured movements suggested discipline, not recklessness. Jake's eyes darted to the biker he had mistakenly arrested, the same man whose calm demeanor had unnerved him before. "Who are these guys?" Jake muttered under his breath, barely daring to move. The leader of the pack, a tall, gray-bearded man with an imposing presence, stepped forward. His helmet reflected the morning sun, casting a brief glare that made Jake squint. He didn't speak at first. He simply looked, eyes scanning Jake like a judge assessing guilt. Jake's hands shook as he fumbled to remove the cuffs. I made a mistake. The radio call, the suspect, I was wrong. "I swear," Jake blurted out, voice trembling. The biker Jake had arrested spoke up, his tone calm and firm. "Son, take a breath. It's all right. Mistakes happen." But Jake didn't feel all right. Not with 100 bikers roaring around him, engines humming like a living, breathing wall. He was trapped, exposed, and utterly aware that one wrong move could escalate the situation into something uncontrollable. The leader finally spoke, his voice carrying over the roar of the engines. "Why is our brother in cuffs?" Every word carried authority. Every eye in the circle was now focused on Jake. He stammered, trying to explain, but his words felt small, insignificant compared to the weight of the moment. And as he spoke, the realization sank in. This wasn't just about law and order or crime and punishment. This was about respect, about understanding the humanity behind the leather, the tattoos, the engines. Jake Morales, rookie cop, was about to learn a lesson no academy could ever teach. The roar of engines still echoed in Jake Morales' ears, vibrating through the asphalt and into his chest. The circle of bikers had tightened around him, but there was no aggression in their posture, just an intensity that made every hair on his arms stand on end. He was acutely aware that one wrong word, one wrong gesture, could turn this into a disaster. The tall, gray-bearded leader stepped closer. He radiated authority not through aggression but presence. Even standing silently, he dominated the space. His leather jacket was patched with faded insignias, telling a story of decades spent on the road. His eyes, a piercing steel gray, scanned Jake as though reading every secret thought, every fear buried behind the rookie's nervous exterior. "Why is our brother in cuffs?" The leader asked again, his voice calm yet commanding. Jake swallowed hard. His throat felt dry. The words stuck halfway, as though some invisible hand had frozen them in his chest. He knew there was no point hiding anything. I thought he was a suspect, Jake admitted, voice trembling. "I received a radio call. I was told a wanted criminal was riding a motorcycle matching his description. I made a mistake. I'm sorry." The leader's eyes softened slightly, but the rest of the bikers remained still, like statues carved from black leather and steel. The silence was deafening, broken only by the rumble of engines idling. The biker Jake had arrested, Mike, as his name tag revealed, stepped forward. His calm, weathered face was reassuring, yet filled with quiet authority. "Son," Mike said, placing a firm hand on Jake's shoulder. "You're new. You were just doing your job. Mistakes happen. But the lesson is in how you handle them." Jake nodded, his hand still shaking as he fumbled with the cuffs. He realized he had been so focused on doing the right thing that he hadn't thought about how to do it wisely. The leader, whose presence was enough to command respect without raising a voice, spoke again. "Being a cop isn't about being first or being loud. It's about judgment. And judgment isn't learned in an academy or from a manual. It's earned through experience and sometimes through mistakes." Jake's chest tightened. He wanted to apologize again, but words felt inadequate. How do you express remorse to 100 people who could easily turn that remorse into fury? One of the younger bikers, a lanky man with a ponytail and arms covered in tattoos, stepped forward. "Don't worry, rookie," he said with a smirk. "We're not here to teach you a lesson with fists. That would be too easy." A ripple of chuckles went through the bikers, a strange, almost human sound that made Jake realize these were not mindless outlaws. They were a brotherhood, tough, yes, but guided by their own strict code of honor. The leader then nodded to Mike. Mike turned to Jake. "Look at it this way. Mike said, voice low and calm. We ride hard, live free, and stick together. If someone disrespects one of us, the whole pack feels it. But respect is earned. You showed respect by admitting your mistake. That's worth more than any siren or handcuff. Jake felt the tension in his shoulders ease slightly, replaced by a strange sense of awe. He had come here expecting confrontation, maybe even hostility, but instead he found discipline, patience, and wisdom. The leader cleared his throat. Mount up, he said. Jake froze. The bikers began moving in unison, forming a line across the highway. Not to threaten him, but to shield him from the cars rushing down the road while he collected himself. The sight was both intimidating and strangely protective. The engines purred like giant cats, ready to spring into action, but holding back at the same time. Mike walked over to Jake's patrol car, gesturing toward it. Take a moment. Breathe. It's okay. Jake sank into the driver's seat, his hand still shaking on the wheel. He watched as bikers adjusted their positions, some leaning against their motorcycles, others chatting quietly among themselves. There was a sense of order, of structure, of respect woven into their chaotic appearance. Why did you all come so fast? Jake finally asked, voice barely above a whisper. Mike smiled faintly. Because loyalty matters. And because even 100 bikes are faster than a single mistake escalating into something worse. We protect our own, and we protect those who admit their errors. That includes you, rookie. The leader nodded once, sharply. You need to learn this, Morales. Power without wisdom is dangerous. You were lucky today. You might not be next time. Jake felt the weight of those words sink in. He had been so focused on being right, on proving himself, that he had forgotten the human element, the reasoning, the communication, the patience. And here, standing in the shadow of 100 bikers, he realized the lesson was far greater than any arrest he had ever made. Slowly, the circle began to break. One by one, the bikers started their engines, the vibrations coursing through the street like rolling thunder. The leader mounted his bike, glancing back at Jake with a subtle nod, a silent acknowledgement that Jake had passed this trial, at least in part. Mike rode past him slowly, offering a small wave. Remember what I said. Judgment, not force. Respect, not fear. And just like that, the bikers roared away, a cascade of chrome, leather, and thunderous engines disappearing down the highway. The rumble lingered in Jake's chest long after the last bike had vanished over the hill. He sat there for several moments, gripping the steering wheel, trying to process what had just happened. The adrenaline had faded, leaving a quiet, reflective ache. He thought about the lesson Mike had shared. Loyalty, respect, humility, and the courage to admit when you are wrong. Jake finally stepped out of the car, looking down the empty road where the bikers had vanished. The street was quiet again, almost peaceful, as if nothing had happened. But Jake knew better. Today, he had witnessed something extraordinary. 100 bikers, united not by law, but by a code stronger than any manual could teach. And in that moment, a rookie cop learned more about justice, honor, and humanity than he ever could have in a year of academy drills. He looked at his hands, still trembling slightly, and whispered to himself, Justice isn't just about power. It's about understanding. And today I finally get that. Jake Morales returned to his car, a new sense of resolve settling over him. When he finally drove off, it wasn't just as a rookie cop. It was as someone who had been tested, humbled, and enlightened. Someone who had seen that sometimes. True justice is about listening, learning, and earning respect before wielding authority. And though the town would never fully understand what had happened that morning, Jake would never forget the day when 100 bikers blocked a road not to punish, but to teach a cop what real honor looked like.